involving inequalities. So we've been solving inequalities, but now they want us to write them and solve them from some information that they give us in a word problem. So if we look at this first example, it says Molly sets her car's trip odometer at 0 at the start of her trip home. Okay? When the odometer showed that she had driven 16 miles, a highway sign showed her that she was still more than 25 miles from home. What is the minimum total distance to the nearest mile that she will have traveled when she arrives home? Okay, well, first thing I know is that she's got a distance to travel. I don't know what it is. I'm just going to call it D. Okay? Now, she's already driven 16 miles of it, so I'm going to take 16 miles off the distance that she needs to drive. Okay? And this sign tells me that I still have more than 25 miles to go. Okay? So after I had driven 16, so minus 16, I still have more than 25 miles to go. All right? Now let's solve this to find out the total distance. I want to get D by itself. So if I add 16 to both sides, that's going to give me D is greater than 41. So it doesn't equal 41. It has to be greater than 41. Well, the first whole number, right, because it says nearest mile, bigger than 41 is 42. So she had to drive at least 42 miles. Okay, that's it. Nice. All right? That was an easy one. And most of these things are easy. Okay, let's look at the next one. Let's see. This one says that Mike wants to rent a car for his vacation. The rental costs $125 a week plus 15 cents a mile. How far to the nearest mile can Mike travel if he wants to spend at most $200? That means less than or equal to. He doesn't want to go over it, so it's less than or equal to $200. Okay? Now, they usually don't charge you for miles anymore. I mean, now it's sort of a one charge and it's unlimited mileage. But, you know, that's this problem does charge per mile. All right, so I know that I'm going to pay 15 cents a mile. I have to pay $125 just to rent the car. And then I'm going to pay 15 cents or 0.15 for every mile that I drive. I'll let M equal mile. So that's how much this thing costs me, and I know that I need it to be less than or equal to 200. I don't have $200.01, or Mike doesn't. He's got $200 to spend on this. So he needs to make sure that he doesn't go over on the mileage. So let's find out how many miles he can drive. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 125 from both sides, okay? And that's going to give me 0.15 miles. Has to be less than or equal to 75, okay? Now, I'm going to divide both sides by 0.15, okay? And when I get out my trusty calculator and I type in 75 divided by 0.15, that's going to leave me with miles. The miles has to be less than or equal to 500. That means he can drive 500 but not 501. Because if he drives over 500 miles, it's going to cost him more than $200. And he wants to spend at most $200. So that's my answer. Okay? Nice. Good. All right, let's look at the next one. Some pretty easy stuff. All right, example 3. The width of a rectangular computer screen is 20 centimeters less than twice the length. The perimeter is at least 53 centimeters. Find the minimum dimensions in centimeters of the screen if each dimension is an integer. Okay. Now, something I want to talk about just before we get started with this, and that is that when we're working with word problems, and I'm not very good at this, I don't set a good example, I need to set a better example with this. Every word problem, we should read the entire thing through once before we write anything down. just to get a sense of what they're asking. Because once we start writing things down, that gets our mind going in a certain direction. And that may not be the direction that the problem's asking us. We may think we know what the problem is, but we really don't. So I need to set a better example, but I'm telling you now, read a problem completely before you write anything down. Okay? Now I've read this problem. I know that it deals with a rectangular computer screen and the perimeter around it. Okay? So whenever I get something like that, I'm going to draw a picture. If I can draw a picture, I'm going to. And this rectangle has a length and it has a width. And it says that the width of a rectangular computer screen is 20 centimeters less than twice the length. So I have to subtract 20 from 2L. Okay? Now I know that the perimeter is at least 53 centimeters, so that means greater than or equal to. Okay? Now remember, the formula for perimeter is equal to 2L plus 2W, right? Now let's fill in what we know. We know that 53 centimeters has to be the perimeter, but it says it's got to be greater than or equal to 53. Okay? Our perimeter needs to be bigger than or equal to 53. Okay? Now, let's see. 2L plus 2 times, not W, but what W equals, 2L minus 20. This stuff has to be greater than or equal to 53. Okay? And it does. Is that confusing you being written in that order? I mean, I can write it in another order. Watch this. We could do it like this. I could take the P off of this side and say that 2L plus 2W equals perimeter. And then fill it in this way, 2L plus 2 times not W, but what W equals, which is 2L minus 20. Okay, I can write an L better than that. 2L minus 20 has to be greater than or equal to 53 centimeters. It's at least that much. It has to be greater than or equal to it. Okay, now let's solve. So I get 2L plus 4L when I distribute minus 40 has to be greater than or equal to 53. All right, let's combine my variables here. I got 6L minus 40 is greater than or equal to 53. When I add 40 to both sides, I'm going to get that 6L is greater than or equal to 93. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 6. And that means that the length has to be greater than or equal to, let me pull out my calculator here, 93 divided by 6, and I get 15.5. Now remember in the problem, it says that find the minimum dimensions in centimeters of the screen if each dimension is an integer. So I can't have a decimal in my answer. Okay? Now, if length is greater than or equal to 15.5, but it can't be a decimal, I need to go to the next whole number above that, which is 16. Okay? So now, my length is equal to 16 centimeters. So what is my width equal? Well, I just plug in 16. 2 times the length, which is 16, minus 20 is equal to, well, let's see what that is. We're plugging that in, is equal to the width. So that's going to be 32 minus 20 is equal to the width, and that means that 12 is equal to the width. So the width is equal to 12 centimeters. So what perimeter would that give us? Let's see. That would say 16 and 12, 16 and 12. So that's going to be, this right here is 28, and I've got 2 of them, so 56. Is that greater than or equal to 53? It sure is. All right. Okay. Nice job, guys. That's it. That's all the examples I have for you. That's what we're doing. We're writing inequalities from the word problems, and we're solving them. All right. Good job. You're ready.